The Outermost House, A Year of Life on the Great Beach of Cape Cod by Henry Beston. Chapter 7. An Inland Stroll in Spring. I woke last night just after 2 o'clock and found my larger room brimming with April moonlight, and so still that I could hear the ticking of my watch. Unable and half unwilling to sleep again, I dressed and went out upon the dunes. When something wakes me up thus at night, I often dress and go quietly forth on an exploring expedition. It was mildly cold in my ocean world. A light westerly breeze was flowing in fitful eddies close along the earth. The moon was full and high in a cloudless heaven. The surf was but awash along the ebb. Staff in hand, I crossed the beach to the good footing along the water's edge and walked south at a slow pace toward Big Dune. As I approached the shadow of the dune, I heard from behind it, and ever so faint and high and far away, a sound in the night. The sound began to approach and to increase in its wild music, and after what seemed a long minute, I heard it again from somewhere overhead and a little out to sea. I stared into the sky, but could see nothing. The sound that I had heard died away. Again from behind the dune and to the west of south, I heard the lovely, broken, chorusing, bell-like sound, the sound of a great flight of geese going north on a quiet night under the moon. I climbed Big Dune then, the peak of these sand mountains. The moon's shadow was dark upon its eastern slope, but the crest was lifted to the light and commanded both marsh and sea. The channels were still as moonlit forest lakes. The sea was a great deep, surfaced with a thin moon splendor of golden green. I lingered there till the moon began to pale, listening to the wild music of the great birds, for a river of life was flowing that night across the sky. Over the elbow of the cape came the flights, crossing Eastham Marsh and the dunes on their way to the immensity of space above the waters. There were little flights and great flights. There were times when the sky seemed empty. There were times when it was filled with an immense clamor which died away slowly over ocean. Not unfrequently I heard the sound of wings, and once in a while I could see the birds. They were flying fast, but scarce had I marked them ere they dwindled into a lot of moonlit sky. An April morning follows. Spring walks upon the dunes, but ocean lingers on the edge of winter. Day after day, the April sun pours an increasing splendor on the ocean plain, a hard, bright splendor of light, but the Atlantic mirror drinks no warmth. A chance cloud upon the sun, a shadow, and the sea of an instant returns to February. No shadow of cloud may do the same upon the dunes. Under this April light, the mound and landward slope of the great wall have put on a strange and lovely color which lies upon them with the delicacy of a reflection in a pool. This color is a tint of palest olive, even such a ghost of it as one may see in spring on the hillsides of Provence, and it is both of the mingling of pale sand, blanched grass, and new grass spears of a certain eager green. The birds of outer ocean, the coots or scoters, the old squaws, dipper ducks, eiders and widgeons, the auks and their kin, have practically all of them forsaken the Cape and return to their breeding ground in the north. After the 15th of April, these sea peoples are rarely encountered on the Cape. The lakes of Manitoba are theirs, the glacier hillocks of Greenland, and the matted grasses of the tundra. The spring migrations here do not fill the air and the hours with birds as do the autumnal visitations. Urged on by their own imperious instinct and nature's general will, the creatures have a hurried air, and night flights are more frequent with them than on the southward journeyings. The first shorebirds to pause here on their way back to the northern country were ringnecks, the semi-palmated plover, and even as the last shorebirds I saw were strays, so were these first solitaries and adventurers. On April the 2nd, I saw a single ringneck running ahead of me along the upper beach. On the 5th, I met with another stray. On the 8th, I put up a flock of 12. I have since encountered flocks on several occasions, and sent them wheeling off above the breakers, uttering their melodious and plaintive cry. The note is much like that of the piping plover, but without the piping plover's flute-like purity of tone. Since April the 5th, a small company of gannets have been fishing just off the forecastle. Gannets have long been favorites of mine. The word white, applied to the plumage of birds, covers a multitude of minor tintings. Some birds are yellowish white, some grayish white, some ivory white, some white with an undertone of rose. To my eye, the gannet wears as pure and as positive a white as one may find in nature, and moreover, the black tips of his wings are a black past excelling. The bird is large. Ornithologists grant him a length between 33 and 40 inches, and he has a way of using his wings as if they were hinged fins. When sea and sky are a pleasant midday blue, it is a charming bit of life and decorative color to see these creatures diving. They make a famous plunge. The birds off the forecastle, as far as I can judge, hover between 40 and 50 feet above the sea, and are fishing the shallows on a bar. On catching sight of fish, they fall on the prey like arrows from a cloud. The impact of each body strikes a tiny fountain from the sea. When fish are plentiful on the bar, these living plummets fall, climb, and fall again till the whole fishing ground is sown with darts of spray. Like the ringnecks, these gannets are on their way north to the breeding grounds. Early in March, my friend Kenneth Young of Orleans brought me down a load of groceries in his Ford, and as we stood talking on the porch of the forecastle, I caught his attention to the ducks who were stirring about that morning in the channels and making an unusual noise. "Surely," said I, "they are not beginning to mate so early in the year." "Well, not exactly," said my friend, "but they are choosing partners." Somehow or other, much of the etiquette of the tone of courtship among gregarious birds has been caught in this phrase born of the older dance. It has a flavor of the bowings and noddings, the showing-offs, the coy approaches, the coy escapes, the expected pursuits, the endless conversational whistlings, mewings, squawkings, and quackings, which cover the primitive tensity under the politeness. Under this April blue, the great marshes are emptier of life than I have ever known them. No longer do westerly winds carry to my ears a sound of spring and wooing. The marsh ducks have sought their ponds and wilderness lakes. The larks have climbed the sky to Labrador. Even the herring gulls are scattering. Though the breeding season of the latter bird does not begin till the first or second week in May, the marriageable are already wandering east to Maine. Hundreds of isles and islets on the Maine coast are as wild today as they were when Champlain visited the archipelago, and the herring gull breeds there by the twice 10,000s. The sand has entirely resumed its looseness, its fluidity, but its color still tells of winter in the faintest hint of gray. The golden warmth is there, and is emerging. The climbing sun will soon exorcise this ghost of cold. Through the winter flows and spreadings of the sand, the new spears of dune grass rise. The leaves rolled into a green poignard with a tip of rhubarb bed and a terminal spike as piercing as a thorn. Other leaves, other spikes grow from the withered fists of the old plant, and what are left of last year's leaves now crack from brittleness and drop away. Even the oozy vegetation of the flats is sharing in the spring. At dead low tide, the streaming eel grass of the channel beds reveals new patches of wet, bright yellow-green. These stains dominate the spring colors of my world and are very beautiful to see when the April sun is shining. Mammalian life was the first to emerge from the sterility of winter. I found skunk tracks on the dunes after the certain warm nights in March, and after the mammals came returning birds. Insect life has scarce stirred, though a few stray unknown flies have made their way into the house. In that kingdom, life must begin again from the beginning. April and the sun advancing, the disk rising each day to the north of where it leaped from yesterday's ocean and setting north of yesterday's setting. The solar disk burning, consuming winter in fire.